Hi everyone, welcome to the latest edition of Life on the Edge. This month we are looking at Teams optimization for AVD. As you may be aware, IGEL announced our Teams optimization solution on the 8th of August. So I decided to put together a podcast featuring our internal team who worked on this project. And that consists of Jeff Kalberg, Fredrick Brattstig, and Jurgen Schneider. And in the episode, we go through the solution and how they went about implementing it, some of the issues that occurred during the development, and how those resolved. I really hope you enjoy the episode. Thanks very much. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the latest episode of Life on the Edge. This month, we're looking at Teams optimization for AVD, and I've assembled our team who were involved in the development of our AVD, of our Teams optimization solution. So I have Jeff Kalberg, Fredrick Brattstig, and Jurgen Schneider. Hi guys.
Hello.
Hello, James.
Hi, James.
So let's start. Start with you, Jeff. Can you tell us what your role is at IGEL?
My role at IGEL. So my name is Jeff Kalberg, Technology Evangelist at IGEL. I've been involved with IGEL and the IGEL product for 21 years now. So I've been around for a while and watched it grow up. My role today is to work on our alliances, work with key partners, work closely with Microsoft and helping implement new technologies and working closely with Jurgen in terms of what we need to develop. So constantly on the edge, not just living on the edge, as I live in AVD every day, 24 hours a day, and using Teams in an optimized environment. So actually working with it. Fred, I'll hand over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. So Fredrick Brattstig, Tech Evangelist for me too, as my role. I'm based in Sweden, working mainly in the European theater, according to the paper, but I would say globally. So the same stuff as Jeff, basically. My days are also filled with using Windows in AVD, and Teams optimization has been a hot thing for us since quite a long time. Both me and Jeff and Jurgen has had quite a few different experiences during the development phases, but now we're good. I hand over to Jurgen.
Yeah, thanks, Fred. I'm Jurgen Schneider. I'm team leader of part of the Linux development, and I'm the developer actually who was working on the Teams optimization in AVD. I was from the very beginning of the AVD development at IGEL based on the RD Core SDK from Microsoft, together with Max in the beginning. But for the Teams optimization, I was more or less the only developer there, and I was working together with Microsoft guys, of course. Besides that, I try to handle parts of the Linux team together with a few other team leaders there in order to get the overall development going at IGEL and for the IGEL OS. I'm based in Augsburg in Germany.
Perfect. Thanks very much, guys. So if we can go back a bit, when did we first start looking at a Teams optimization for AVD?
I think it was 2 years ago.
Yeah. I think we learned early on as we adopted AVD and started using AVD back when it was Windows Virtual Desktop.
Yep.
Before the name change. When you live in a world where unified communications is integral to everything you do every day, it became clear that as a user of AVD, that for it to be a solution that people could adopt, you need to have Teams, the ability to have a Teams meeting and do offloading of audio and video and do it well. And it just was essential. And as you said, 2 years ago, we knew this had to be done, and we started working with Microsoft to develop that and add it to the solution.
Did you guys envisage it would take 2 years to get the solution?
Well, first of all, we needed the RD Core SDK from Microsoft that actually supported that stuff. so we can implement our part of that. The first implementation from Microsoft was based on an older API of the WebRTC stack. WebRTC is basically the technology which is used for all these communication tools that we use today with Zoom and Teams in this case. And we implemented it. It was basically working, but they wanted us to support the new API which they changed in Microsoft Teams as well. So the Microsoft VDI implementation has changed, and they didn't want us to release an older version of the API and directly go GA only with the newest version being supported. So it was a little bit of a double work here. So the initial implementation was working quite well, and then they came up with this WebRTC 1.0, they called it. And yeah, we needed to implement that, and it was not completely different, but it had some difficulties in there. And what I can tell is the easiest thing was to get the audio working. That was within 2 months or so. That was no problem. But all this video stuff is quite full of hassles, and you have issues there, and yeah, it's difficult thing to get the video.
Was there any
running.
particular video feature that really caused an issue?
Well, it's different things. Getting it running at all was an issue, because you have different type of devices participating in such calls, and all of them use their H.264 decoders and encoders. You have to find the common format, so to speak. And after that, well, they do some things where, in order to reduce network bandwidth, they on the fly change the resolution of the video stream, and they change the quality and stuff like that. And yeah, that was a little bit of a problem. And sometimes I think we still have some problem in the Fluendo codecs that can't handle it 100%, because yeah, especially the resolution changes, they seem not to handle in 100% perfect. So sometimes that means the client.
So do you mean, when you talk about resolution change, are you talking about from an end users at webcam? Is it like from different ones they're utilizing, or are you talking about within the protocol? Within the protocol, actually. Oh, okay.
Well, right. Yeah, it's basically if they decide they need to utilize the network less, they reduce the resolution of the video. They encode and send through the wire. It's not directly related to what the webcam actually, or what the webcam resolution is actually. Right. It's an adaptation of the resolution for using less or more network bandwidth if it's available.
Sure. Subtle differences. It's almost like, how is it that we can have a German, a Swede, an Englishman, and an American on a call?
Come on, Englishman.
Oh my gosh, he's not an Englishman. Oh no.
Stop the recording.
No. But
rewind.
As a user, James, so Jurgen does all the heavy lifting, and Fred and I get to test everything before anybody else gets it. And it's been an interesting exercise as we've learned how WebRTC, how the different versions communicate, and you do things like the video. I mean, just simply resizing a window the slightest little bit has a huge impact. I mean, it all has to be processed, and all of our voice and our audio, and audio in, audio out, and the video, the various, your video, my video, Fred's video, Jurgen's video, they're all different. They all have to be handled. It's as you said, audio was pretty easy, Jurgen, and that was pretty quick to do. But the video and the timing of all the frames and how that comes across is really quite interesting for a non-programmer to listen to how it's done.
Sure.
But
and do you think that was the biggest challenge around kind of the different video resolutions and that kind of thing?
In general, well, there were other challenges, of course, as well. Basically, there was not really a documentation from Microsoft about the API. Basically, I had just had a header file, which is just showing you the programming language API, but it doesn't tell how things interact and stuff like that. I got some sample code from Microsoft, but well, I just couldn't use that line by line and transport it to our IGEL system. I needed to do our own thing, and yeah, just to try to find out what the API means and how everything is meant to work together, actually.
So
that
was a learning process for everyone involved.
Sorry?
It was a learning process for everyone involved.
Absolutely, yeah. It wouldn't have gone without the communication with Microsoft.
Yeah, it was. Let's talk a little bit about that. So I presume like you guys regularly talk to the guys in Redmond, and I know some of you were actually in Redmond as well during the whole project. Is that right?
Yeah, we've been there a few times, both for development sprints for Jurgen, so that he can be on site, talk directly to the guys. Of course, COVID made it a bit problematic sometimes, but we actually were in Redmond. When was it? Like a few weeks ago?
Right, yeah. End of July, I think.
End of July, yeah, just before my vacation. There is a lot of technical terms discussed, especially from Jurgen, because he's very deep into this. I would like to explain actually what actually lies behind all the work that Jurgen has been doing, because the agreement between IGEL and Microsoft is that Microsoft provides IGEL with a SDK, a software development kit. So it's basically just, let's say, a binary file with information and hooks that we should connect to and do certain things around. So they do not deliver anything that is useful. So Jurgen is doing all the heavy work of actually connecting this and building up an application on the IGEL side that are able to talk the WebRTC and do all the offloading of the video streams and the audio streams and combination of all the information that needs to be shown on your desktop. And I mean, the end goal is to have a desktop that is running somewhere up in the cloud, in Azure, of course, in Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365 in this case. We also support Windows 365, which is of importance. Yep. But we need to move the execution or rendering of the audio and the video to the endpoint that the user are using, because that will give a much better user experience in terms of the video calls. I'm not saying that I explained it in a good way, but maybe less technical.
No, that's perfect. Sounded good to me.
And have we done any kind of performance testing around how much bandwidth you were or resources you were now saving by offloading or anything like that?
So the first thing, without the offloading, there is no possibility to get the video there.
Right.
The audio could be done without offloading. Well, it's offloading anyways, but yeah. But the video is very difficult to get without any type of real offloading communications.
We tried that, Fred, remember, in the early days.
Yeah, with the Fabletech USB redirection and webcam redirection and so on.
Right. And of course, when we do that and then use things like remote audio, you know, you run the risk of creating a lot of pinning and the audio and the video get way out of sync very quickly, and it's just inconsistent. And it's an interesting point. It's a lot of people, it's just thinking about this as this has evolved. A lot of people used to reach out to us, and they really focused on being able to make their webcam available in their AVD session, thinking that was the way that you would actually do an AVD meeting, and it really wasn't focused on the fact that your webcam is actually not, when we're doing Teams optimization, the webcam is not is redirected into the remoted session. It's redirected at the WebRTC level, point to point, which is of course the way WebRTC works. And that's so critical, that's where the offloading is so critical, so that the voice and the audio is as clear as it could possibly be. It's completely outside of the AVD session.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Controlled in the session, but the real-time communications pieces are outside of the session.
The thing is, exactly what Jeff was saying, the thing is, when you actually get the optimization working, the only place, so to speak, or the only application that can see the camera is the application that is communicating to your endpoint device and the routines that is running on the endpoint. So the camera is selectable within Microsoft Teams in the remote session, but you will not see the camera in Device Manager, so to speak. If you see the camera in Device Manager, you have failed. You will never ever be able to do any offloading.
Yeah.
And that is the difference of using USB redirection to the backend host system, because then you actually just do a long extension cord from the camera over the network to the host on the backend.
Of course, one of the things that always, when this is working properly, one of the fun little tests you can do is you could try and do a screenshot of your session, your AVD session, and it'll look great, except you won't see any camera images. They'll just be black spots on your screen because they're not in the remote environment. They're local, which is why, yeah.
Yeah, they are displayed locally and framed into the Teams window within the session. So it's kind of crazy starting to think about do all the calculations of where to show the video feeds and so on. But yeah, it's cool. It works.
no, that's really cool, and it's really good to get that kind of level of detail about, you know, how we implemented and the differences between, you know, using WebRTC over USB redirection. It's good to get that information. Let's see, where are we? So, yeah, go on.
I'd like, you know, so we talked about, you know, 2 years ago, and the very quickly realizing that, you know, you can't really do a remoted solution like Windows or like Azure Virtual Desktop or Windows 365 for that matter, without having unified communication support. So we have to have that team support. Well, as soon as we start getting that there to a point where it's now usable, then all of a sudden it's like, well, I need background blur. And because, well, you never know. I mean, you might walk behind your screen or whatever the case may be. And we all like to have wallpapers. Like, I love to be sitting in, you know, Yosemite National Park in the valley, but I'm not there. So we have wallpapers and such, but the background blur is an essential item for pretty much a lot of users. So that was something. I don't think we've rolled it out yet. We've been testing it pretty extensively.
Yeah.
Oh, exclusive.
But that was a really interesting challenge, wasn't it, Jurgen, to figure out how to make that work, and that I always thought that was interesting. Maybe you want to comment on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was really challenging as well. Basically, it's using some library from Google, which provides the media pipe, so-called libraries. There's plenty of examples in the internet which are using these libraries on Linux for doing fancy stuff like background blur, but all these examples basically use Python. And well, that's not what I wanted to use. I wanted to bake it into our AVD client. And that was a little bit of a challenge because there are hardly any examples in the internet. And it's more or less, yeah, again, like with the RD Core SDK from Microsoft, it was learning from the source code, how things could work, finding test code, which is included in the package. And yeah, I try to, yeah, learn from that, how things work together. In the end, you have some artificial intelligence technologies in the background, which actually try to separate the background from the foreground. And the foreground is a person sitting in front of the camera, and the background, of course, is everything else. And you don't want to use the green screen stuff that we had in the past. because you want to have that feature with any background. Basically we have it working in development. It's not released, as Jeff already said. We have to sort a few things out and clean it up a little bit, I guess.
So coming soon.
Yeah, it's a real it's an interesting challenge. I remember in the early days of Zoom, running on a Linux device, of course, you had to have a green screen. So if I turn my wallpaper off, you got a big green screen behind me. But I don't use it anymore because we've gotten beyond that technology. But being able to find the edges of the person, and how those things work together, the green screen or that solid same color background allows you to do differentiations. You try to do background blur, well, you're using that real background, so you have to blur everything, but yet you have to separate the person and put them in front of that screen. And as you say, that artificial intelligence is that person is moving around and all that. I mean, this is it's not secret code in any way. It stretches the imagination, but complicated to figure it all out. Starting with that those media pipe libraries from Google.
Yeah, no. So just looking at our team's solution, we've mentioned the background blur. Are there any other kind of features which are kind of coming soon, or are we're looking to implement in the future?
So basically, we could just lean to the roadmap of Teams in remoted sessions from Microsoft, because the Teams installation, there are basically two separate branches of Teams, one for the desktop PC and Macs and so on, and with its feature sets, and one for the remoting environments like Citrix, VMware, AVD, and Windows 365, of course. And there are different feature sets between those, but in the remoting piece of Microsoft Teams, the feature sets are comparable because it's actually the backend, the server-side application that determines the features that will be available. Then, of course, when there arrives a new feature surfaces, of course, we might need to do stuff to make changes.
So would you say we're close to feature parity with the Windows version for Teams remoting?
Yes,
I think, we're very close, and we do, and I think that is the goal, is to reach that feature
Absolutely,
parity.
yeah.
So, and we'll get there.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And on the AVD side, Windows 365 is a beautiful thing because you already have the Teams integration. It's installed by default, at least on their Windows 11 machines. I don't know about the Windows 10. But in AVD, on the host side, there is no differences in how you install Microsoft Teams to match a Windows endpoint or an IGEL endpoint. So you just follow the regular guides on the Microsoft pages, and you're good to go.
Right. Yeah, because on IGEL, obviously if you want to use Zoom, that's a plugin that needs to be enabled on IGEL. It's not automatically there. If we want to use, Cisco doesn't have a solution for AVD, so we can't talk about that one, but it would be a similar situation where they'd have to turn on the plugin to make that available, but it's just there in our AVD client. So there's nothing that needs to be done on the IGEL side. As Fred mentioned, you just need to enable it on the AVD side. It's automatically enabled on the Windows 365 side. You don't need to do anything there. So if you use an IGEL device, IGEL OS, and our AVD client to connect to Windows 365, Teams will just work. There's nothing you need to do to enable it on Windows 365. AVD is a different scenario because, again, the shared nature of AVD with Windows 10 multi-session or multi-user requires that AVD be installed into the image and updated that way. So a little different. You have to actually take that step to make AVD work optimized and using
And
That's
IGEL.
that's things done by the administrator actually.
Yeah, users don't do anything. Exactly.
Yeah, of course.
For the
And-
user, it just should work.
And I mean, we took the decision to turn on Teams optimization by default at a quite early stage, because I mean, if the backend isn't set up correctly, nothing will actually happen. So the IGEL endpoint might advertise that it can do Teams optimization, but the backend will not understand what's going on. So, I mean, it's not a risk, but it's possible to turn it off if you want to, of course, as always with IGEL.
Mm-hmm. But why would you?
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. Any other questions? So you were talking about the background blur that will be coming soon. We're not obviously, which obviously is as we've talked about, is a huge feature for everyone out there. But I think just to see the development of the Teams optimization solution come to fruition after such a long time, it's a fantastic win for IGEL. Especially being the first to market with it as well, and I think a lot of people are starting to take notice of it, and it seems like as we've discussed throughout the episode, is that we're getting very close to feature parity with the Windows client as well. So that's fantastic news. So I think it's been really insightful for me to kind of get an overview of what you guys have done and how it's all kind of come together. And I think a lot of people will really be interested in seeing how we have come to this solution. So yeah, I'd just like to thank you guys for your time, and I really enjoyed the overview, and I'm sure everyone else will. So thanks very much, all.
Of course.
Thanks, James. This is fun.
Yeah, cool. Thanks very much. Cheers.
Have a good day. Bye.
Just bye-bye.
Disrupt on Tour is coming to Europe and North America in September and October. Register at disrupteuc.com.